In May 2017, former director of the FBI Robert Mueller was appointed by the Deputy Attorney General as special counsel to oversee a full and thorough investigation of the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. 2 years later, the report was released and stated that the Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion. And that's bad. You don't want a foreign government meddling in your elections. But the report also says that the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. And that's good news for American democracy. And that's where the Mueller report should have ended. But instead, it was only the beginning. In May 2019, Robert Mueller closed the special counsel's office and held a press conference.
There has been discussion about an appearance before Congress. Any testimony from this office would not go beyond our report, and the report is my testimony. I would not provide information beyond that which is already public in any appearance before Congress. Now, I hope and expect this to be the only time that I will speak to you in this manner.
So would congressional Democrats respect his decision? Yeah, right.
Both the chairman of this committee, of the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler, and the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, that they actually have subpoenaed Bob Mueller and that he has agreed to testify under subpoena.
We think it's very important for the American people to hear directly what the facts are, and we have to present or let Mueller present those facts to the American people and then see where we go from there.
Except that Mueller has already presented these facts in a 448-page report that was made available to the public.
Well, since most Americans, in their busy lives haven't had the opportunity to read that report, and it's a pretty dry prosecutorial work product, we want Bob Mueller to bring it to life.
But unfortunately for Nadler and Schiff, you can't always get what you want.
Director, please speak into the microphone.
Oh, surely. My apologies. You're going to have to repeat that for me. Could you repeat that, ma'am? Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. And is it true that the impact... Pardon?
Can you read the last question? That went a little fast for me.
Okay.
That's a little bit out of our path. Well, it would be Trump.
So much for bringing a Mueller report to life. Anyway, in the report, Mueller listed actions by President Trump related to the Russian interference investigations that may or may not be crimes of obstruction of justice. And while the special counsel declined to indict Trump on any of these actions, Democrats attempted to highlight them to build their case for impeachment.
Among the most shocking of these incidents, President Trump ordered his White House counsel to have you fired.
Your investigation found that President Trump directed White House counsel Don McGahn to fire you. Isn't that correct?
True.
McGahn recalled that the president was more direct, saying something like, call Rod, tell Rod that Mueller has conflicts and can't be the special counsel. McGahn recalled the president telling him, Mueller has to go.
The New York Times reported that, quote, the president had ordered McGahn to have the Department of Justice fire you. Is that correct?
Correct.
The president wanted to fire you.
Your investigation found evidence that President Trump took steps to terminate the special counsel, correct?
Correct.
First, there's some problems with the Democrats' approach.
Importantly, the president never said fire Mueller.
This is important considering that firing people is kind of Trump's thing.
You're fired. 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 Go.
And technically, there's a big difference between saying Mueller has to go and fire Mueller. But more importantly,
There's been a lot of talk today about firing the special counsel and curtailing the investigation. Were you ever fired, Mr. Mueller, from
Sorry,
special?
what?
Were you ever fired as special counsel, Mr. Mueller?
No.
okay, so even if the president wanted to fire special counsel Mueller, that's not a crime.
Can't he also fire you as special counsel at any time without any reason?
I believe that to be the case.
Under Article 2.
Well, hold on just a second. You said without any reason. I know that special counsel can be fired, but I'm not certain it extends to for whatever reason. is given.
Well, and you've testified that you weren't fired. You were able to complete your investigation in full. Is that correct?
I'm not going to add to what I've stated before.
And even if it was a crime, the president ultimately didn't have Mueller fired, so it wouldn't be a crime regardless.
On January 26, 2018, the president's personal counsel called McGahn's attorney and said that the president wanted McGahn to put out a statement denying that he had been asked to fire the special counsel, end quote. The president then directed Porter to tell McGahn to create a record to make it clear that the president never directed McGahn to fire you, end quote. Is that correct?
That is, as it's stated in the report.
According to the report, Trump said to McGahn, "I never said fire Mueller. I never said fire. This story doesn't look good. You need to correct this. You're the White House counsel." The statement that McGahn was asked to write was a statement to the press. Asking someone to lie to the press is not a crime. Not to mention that McGahn never actually wrote the statement, so where is this crime exactly? Okay, moving on.
He ordered his former campaign manager to convince the recused Attorney General to step in and limit your work.
Mr. Lewandowski, a private citizen, was instructed by the President of the United States to deliver a message from the President to the Attorney General that directed him to limit your investigation, correct?
Correct.
So the president asked his former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, to ask the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, to limit the special counsel's investigation. That is not a crime. Not only that, but legally, the president is allowed to order Mueller and his team to limit the scope of the investigation. But more importantly,
Were you allowed to complete your investigation unencumbered?
Yes.
At any time with the investigation, was your investigation curtailed or stopped or hindered?
No.
this is all the House Democrats have. None of this is criminal, let alone impeachable.
As a prosecutor, you would agree that if a witness or suspect lies or obstructs or tampers with witnesses or destroys evidence during an investigation, that generally that conduct can be used to show a consciousness of guilt. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Here's a hypothetical. Let's say that Hillary Clinton has a private email server that she improperly uses for State Department business. And let's say that an aide destroys over 30,000 emails after Clinton receives a subpoena during a congressional investigation. Does that conduct show a consciousness of guilt? Nah, not the same thing. And while we're on the subject of Hillary Clinton,
the president himself called on the Russians to hack Hillary's emails.
There was a statement by the president in those general lines.
Let's take a look at what Trump actually said.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
Clearly he's joking. But let's take a look again at what Adam Schiff said.
The president himself called on the Russians to hack Hillary's emails.
Trump said this in July 2016 when he was the nominee, not the president. More importantly, he is not encouraging the Russians to hack.
By the way, if they hacked, they probably have her 33,000 emails. I hope they do.
He is saying hacked, past tense. He's not telling them to do it. Again, it's a joke, not a formal request. Anyway, the hearings weren't all about grandstanding. Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley asked some of the most important questions of the day.
Earlier today and throughout the day, you have stated the policy that a seated president cannot be indicted, correct?
Right.
And upon questioning this morning, you were asked, could a president be indicted after their service, correct?
Yes.
And your answer was that they could.
They could.
Democrats believe that Mueller would have charged the president with obstruction if it weren't for a pesky little thing called the United States Constitution. The Justice Department released memos in 1973 and 2000 saying that the indictment or criminal prosecution of a sitting president would unconstitutionally undermine the capacity of the executive branch to perform its constitutionally assigned functions.
The follow-up question that should be concerning is, what if a president serves beyond the statute of limitations?
I don't know the answer to that one.
Ooh, I do. The statute of limitations to charge the president with obstruction is 5 years. So if Trump gets a second term, he would then be in office longer than 5 years, which means that he could not be charged. And if that's not a reason to vote in 2020, then I don't know what is.
Well, listen, I think that it seems like a betrayal of American values to me, sir, that someone with, if not being criminal, is definitely unethical and wrong. And I would think that we would not want to set a precedent that political campaigns should not divulge of information if it's foreign government assistance. Thank you, sir.
A big thanks to everyone who participated in the caption contest. There were so many great ones, but of course I couldn't use all of them. And as always, thanks for watching, sharing, and hitting that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel! Check out the links in the description and check out these videos that you may have missed. A special thanks to all of my PayPal and Patreon supporters and all of my channel members. Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope to see you all next time.